Welcome, in front of me is an LG G8s, and today I'll go over unboxing along with an overview of this device. Now the unboxing will be fairly short, there is not much in the box, and obviously, well, there it is. So let's straight off pop it open. I'll mention that I did already set up the device, so it's not necessarily the first unboxing or something like that, but that is basically what you're gonna get in the box anyway. So, nice cloth. Inside a phone, as you can see, like I said, it's already set up. Now the screen protection that is applied on it doesn't actually come with the device, so just thought I mentioned that. Then inside, under this plastic tray, we have the charger cable and headphones. So cable, it's Type-C, obviously. No, hope it's obvious. Then we got a charger. Now, if I remember correctly, this is an 18-watt charger. I'm just gonna quickly check. So, yeah, it's 5 watts, if I'm seeing correctly, at 1.8 amps. Okay, so let's set it to the side as well. Then inside here we got earbuds. So a couple of different ear tips. So it looks like we get the medium, small, and large. And then the earbuds themselves. And it actually looks like they're not the worst ones. So the cable is weirdly braided, but not. What's going on here? Okay, so it looks like the part of the cable is braided and then part of it's not. So the braided, it's right when it stops splitting, so it combines into one, as you can see here, and then it becomes braided. Nice gesture, although if you go and go braided cable, make it entire one, not just like part of it. This just kind of seems a little bit weird, to be honest, just to have like half of the cable braided and then the other half not. Okay, let's just drop that quickly in here. There we go. Move the box out of the way. It's not like there's anything else in there. And from here, as you can see, we have the phone itself. So right off the bat, you can see the display. And this is, let me quickly max out the brightness. There we go. So this is a 6.21 inch display at the resolution of 1080 by 2248. So it's a 1080p panel. Oh, the nice thing about it is it's actually an OLED display. Now they're calling it GOLED. Means nothing. It's just OLED. You don't need to make a fancy name for your iteration of OLED. It really, as a consumer, I don't care. It's simple OLED is enough. It also has a 82% screen to body ratio. Now there is a hideous and a massive notch right at the top, which you can obviously see right here. Probably would like to not see it, but apparently they had to drop somewhere the time of flight 3D depth sensor for face recognition. Now, just to put that out there, this device did come out in 2019, so comparing it to phones at, well, 20 or 21 seems to be a little bit of a, well, not necessarily the best idea. And even, for instance, at the price that this phone came out at 2019, in my opinion, it seemed fairly compelling. Now, if it would have looked a little bit better, that would have just made it probably sell way better, because it did come at around almost $600, and it is a flagship device basically. But like I said, it has some downsides to it, mainly for instance, the notch, which isn't necessarily the most appealing look. And number 2 would be their LG's UI, and it's also just drop it. We primarily, all of us, prefer a more refined look. similar to just Google stock or something similar to that. You can add additional stuff, but you don't need to just scan the entire Android. And moving on further to the display, it does come with a Gorilla Glass 5, so it is going to be fairly durable glass on it. Now moving out of the display itself, let's lock it and flip it over so you can see the triple camera setup. Now in here we have fairly similar lenses, so we have 12 megapixel wide sensor, 12 megapixel telephoto, and 13 megapixel ultra wide, and all that you will be able to shoot at 4K 30 and 60, and obviously 1080p 30 and 60, along with slow motion at 1080p at 240 frames, so not bad. And then moving to the front camera, and that hideous notch, and also this strangely mispositioned earpiece, which is not necessarily in the center. As you can see, it's right over here. Gives me a little bit of a PTSD almost. But yeah, it's kind of bugging me that it's not in the middle. So yeah, basically in that notch we do have an 8 megapixel wide sensor, and then we also have, like I said before, the time of flight 3D depth sensor for scanning faces, but the 3D depth sensor isn't necessarily a lens, so you cannot use it for photos. Although it could be used by the 8 megapixel to capture better selfies, although haven't tested it, so we'll see in the process. So that being said, let's pop out the camera. Right over here. Let me grab it. It's giving me a quick tutorial on how to use it. How about, I don't care. Location later. Okay, so let's just grab our 3D print right here, slap it, and see how it does with capturing photos. So I'm gonna see if I can actually capture any kind of macro here. So it looks like there is no macro in here, unless it's under the download. Oh, no network. I guess I'm not gonna check it. So in this case, let's just capture it normally. Just looking really close to actually how it looks like. Surprising. It's a little bit more saturated, but still, it's a fairly decent photo. Now if we zoom it in, it does lose a little bit of quality in here, but then it is a quite massive zoom, and overall it does look fairly decent. I cannot complain. So it is fairly detailed. Color accuracy is really good. And if I were to capture it a little bit more towards the light, as you'll probably see, there's a little bit of a warm light here. Okay, so let's look at this. And honestly, it looks really nice. I kind of like how the photos are coming out of here. It's kind of softish, but if I would compare it to something, it kind of resembles to me a little bit of like a Google Pixels photo app. Maybe not to the point of refinement, because that app is just super refined, but still, the image quality is fairly okay, I would say. I was expecting it to be way worse, even though it's a flagship. I've seen flagships that just can't capture photo at all. So this one is doing a fairly okay job. I cannot complain, especially at the price that this flagship comes in. Like I said, it's a fairly compelling price for a really good device, honestly. Now, like I also said before, the downside of this device is just its kind of aesthetic. It just seems not like a flagship, if that makes sense. If I would have to compare to a specific device, if you ever used Samsung's, they have, or at least they used to have, like in 2018 or even maybe 17, something like that. They came out with the Galaxy A lineup, it was A3 I believe, which had a basically glass back and front, also had this curved kind of what they called a 3D screen, which was just a glass that was a little bit curved, but not the screen itself, just a glass on it. And this is basically the same thing here, just at a more expensive price range and just actual flagship specifications. So like I said, a feel of this device feels a little bit like it's a mid-range device rather than a flagship that tries to look really premium, but it's not. This one is premium though, so yeah. Now moving on to actual specifications of this device. It does come with a Snapdragon 855. Now it's not the newest one obviously, but at 2018 or 19 that was an actual like newest chipset. So this device, even now if you buy it in 21 or 2021, it will still handle basically everything you throw at it, so no worries there. Now the problem that I have is just the UI and the skin of it. It makes the device seem to run a little bit slower than it actually is, but that is just kind of a what I would call maybe an illusion. It's just the fault of the UI rather than the phone itself. The phone is running fine. Now it does also come with 6 GB of RAM, so that's I would say also nice. Has a 2 different variants in terms of storage, so you do have a 64 and 128 GB storage, both with UFS 2.1, so you're not going to be getting the fastest transfer read and write speeds on this memory, but it's still going to be good enough, I would say, for majority of the things that you're going to do. And it is also expandable via an SD card, so if you want to slap an SD card in here, no problem, you can do that. Now additionally, the device comes with a battery capacity of 3550 milliamps, and like I said before, 18-watt charger. What I actually wasn't expecting it to have is a Qi charging. Now if I slap it right here, we'll see. Whoops. Supposedly does have, there we go, Qi charging. So you can see that it is charging wirelessly, so additional plus for that. I really like the inclusion of Qi charging here, especially at the price that this phone comes in. Some other flagships, even to this day, don't really come with it, so it's nice to have it here. And outside of that, there's not much more I can say about this phone. It runs well, as well as an LG skinned phone can run. It looks a little bit childish in terms of like the skinning, I would say. Personally, I don't know, I just find it a little bit too overdone, but that just might be my personal preference, and probably you can fix majority of it by downloading a launcher if that is something that you don't mind doing. And outside of that, the camera here is fairly okay. I was fairly pleased with the photos that it took, even though I wasn't really doing any kind of like in-depth photos. It did still perform fairly well in my opinion. And outside of that, the only thing else to say is the general look of it. It does have this kind of beginning of when phones try to have as big screens as possible look, so majority glass and kind of flat, not much more to it. Right now, this look is more for like what you would expect on a mid-range device rather than a flagship. That is a little bit of a downside, but still, the phone, how it looks like, it's not necessarily indicative of how it will perform. So the phone still performs really well. And that being said, another thing that I'll mention here is the inclusion on this device of a headphone jack. So if you want to use your wired cans, you are totally free to do so. And yeah, so you can see it all around, completely fingered up. Let me just quickly whip it a tiny bit. Just made it worse. Okay, but yeah, this is basically the back, triple camera setup. Now I'll also mention the protrusions all on these cameras are fairly minimal, and even if it would be a little bit bigger, I don't think you will be able to feel it when you place the phone, because it is placed in the middle and it is going, well, sideways, so it won't really make the phone wobble in any way, which I also consider as a plus here. So That being said, the phone runs really nice and it's a fairly decent device, especially for the price. Now, I'll also maybe say that the price might be a little bit different nowadays. It is an old device, and the price at like $600, I believe, was the release price. So this phone might be way cheaper than that. I don't know. I would have to check it actually, or you would have to check it. But even at the 600 price, I cannot really complain. It's a really good device for the price. Now it does fall off with the newer phones nowadays. If you compare to like some Chinese phones, for instance, Xiaomi has a really good lineup of devices that would, for instance, cater more to me with a high refresh rate, and still really good cameras. So at the end of the day, if you're looking for raw performance, this phone is at an appealing price tag. If it's cheaper, then it's going to be even better. But it lacks in just general aesthetics and making it look more up to date. And if you're looking for something a little bit more feature rich, then I would probably go with something Chinese based, Xiaomi specifically. They do produce a lot of phones that are really decent, and also the prices are super affordable. So that is also an option here. But that being said, this would conclude the overview of this phone. If you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.